Okay, my name is Henk van Scherpenzeel, typical Dutch name. Age, yeah, I'm a bit old, 67. And I started in the tree care business, let's say that, in arboriculture, at 1972, November 1972, so almost 50 years already. So that old I am. I started in the city Amsterdam, and after that some private companies, and for a community again for a half year. And after that, in 1984, I started my own company, a little company, one-man company, together with a companion. And that later on we built it up, and now there are about 30 people working at the company. The company name is Boomtotaalzorg. Tree totally care. You can exchange it. And I'm that old. I'm retired already, but I do something like this as well still. Yes, and I like it because there are a lot of things to do anymore, and maybe over 100 years in the future as well. But if I can do something on it and to get some benefit of the company, some benefit for the trees and for the arborists who are coming, the new arborists, I like it. Yeah.
If you can explain us how the arboriculture is organized in Netherlands.
Earlier years, let's say in the 60s, 70s, last century, we hadn't arborists. Yeah, there are people who had some tree nurseries and all that kind of stuff. Anyhow, we have some gardeners. And there came a guy named Jurgen Kopijn and his brother Ulrich Kopijn, and they started as a tree surgeons. Early years we were tree surgeons. I was as well, but unfortunately for the trees, I'm now an arborist and no tree surgeon anymore. So they started in the 60s like tree surgeons, and they built up the company Kopijn. It's still the company here in the Netherlands. And later on we educate ourselves. And later on the education centers, the green educator centers for gardens, etc., they pick it up. And it's just like a little cloud just swelling up and gets bigger and bigger, and that's one of the finest things we did. We started at the end of the 70s, 79, 80, so about that. We started with a group with 8 people in the Netherlands. Let's say let's make a kind of a club with tree surgeons at that time. And to make the KPB, Kring Praktiserende Boomverzorgers. It's a circle of practicing tree care people. And now in the Netherlands, 1,100 people are members. They're just member at the personal title. And in the late 80s, beginning 90s, the education started at the green certifications at green education centers, and later on certificated like a certified tree worker. And later on it gets the European tree worker, ATW by the EAC, at ATT, etc. Yeah. So it's a quite young part of all the work you can do in let's say in the public areas like green work, etc. But especially the trees, tree care, that's quite young. Yes.
And do you have your national certification program as well?
We have now just we had the ETW, of course, mostly all Europe has that, and now we started at the middle group. So that's the people from young guys from 16 till 20. We start now an education line to get really the Dutch certification as a tree worker. Yes. Just starting at, I think next year it will be start, yeah, at 2 or 3 certification spots, yes.
And do you have here many people from abroad working in the industry in Netherlands?
How many people are working in tree care? Some communities had their own tree care teams, And there are a lot of more companies like Piers Flores, like the Nationale Bomenbank, like Copijn and Quercus. There are a lot more. So most of those 1100 members of the KPB, Kring Praktiserende Bomenzorg, they're working in the tree care. Most of them, not all. But outside there are a lot more people who are working in tree care business. All and on, over 3,000, maybe 5,000. Yeah, that's the direction. Yeah.
And Holland is very well known for nursery business.
Yeah.
So what is the connection between arboriculture and nurseries here?
The only connection are the trees, of course, because if you don't have young trees, you don't get any older trees. The connection, we're just good on speaking terms with each other. Nursery people to raise up trees and to sell them as soon as possible, because that brings some money. But we have some influence on it, because we want to have trees only from good quality, good stem, not too much branches, not too many big and fresh wounds. What like the roots are, root balls, etc. And all these qualities. We don't accept bad trees. When we buy a bunch of trees for a project, for example, let's say platanus, 30 trees, young platan trees, and 2 or 3 or 5 of them are very bad or had some damage, we send them back and we get new ones. Yes, that's really, you have to say, okay, this is what we accept, nothing else. And if you do that, then the nurseries, they're getting just deliver more and better quality, quality better trees. And that's what we like, that have to be.
And is there any synchronization about the technologies of tree planting or tree training in the first years?
Yeah, well, the way to prune trees at the nurseries is just a bit different. You have to prune trees in the nursery, you have to prune them that way that the crowns get not too wide, because they're standing narrow to each other. They wanted to force the increase, let them grow. And when we planted them in the streets or besides the streets, we just prune them for a kind of a mission. What was standing here? Is it 2 meters beside the road or more? Or what do we raise up the other side of the crown? How high and why and how do we do that? So, but our way to prune trees is just different than nursery, because we like in the first 15, 10, 20 years, it's depend on what tree it is, a poplar or a quercus. We like to prune just in the beginning, just the complete branch and not a bit of it. No, complete, and the bigger one first and the smaller one, leave them for a while, and maybe next year or 2 years later we prune them off. So it's a kind of guided pruning.
If you should summarize the approach to newly planted trees, how is the procedure of pruning trees by the planting?
There are some 2 different lines. There's one line that said, okay, when you get a tree from a nursery, a lot of fine roots they have cut off because you must make a ball, and lots of fine roots, the outside the fine roots are staying back at the nursery, so you don't get them with you. And there is a disbalance between crown mass and root mass. For a couple of years ago, 15, 20 years ago, don't prune them, leave them, because the tree needs all the leaves they have. Well, that's one thing. But when you get a very hot and dry summer, you give them a lot of water, but there is a disbalance between crown, too much leaves, and roots, too little roots. So, in my opinion, and the most common things now is to, okay, prune the trees, but prune them like they did it one time, like they did it at the nursery. For example, oak trees. When you plant an oak tree, you see all those new fine sprouts on the outside of the crown. Keep them away. And some big branches, well, 1 or 2, that's it. And plant it there, give it a lot of as much as water as needed, and then after 2 years, then you can start to really to start the structural pruning. Just the first time, prune it all around a bit, not too heavy, a bit. It looks what happened, and then you can just go on and on. That's I think the best way to do.
So approximately how much percentage of the foliage you remove by the planting time?
Well, it's about 10 and 20%. That's it. That could be enough. Because when you get a tree from the nursery, every 2 or 3 years they cut off the roots as well, and to start to find the roots as well. And it's just multiple fine roots. That's just fine. So maybe 2 or 3 years before you get a tree, they have been cut off. So don't prune that hard. No, not 50 or 30, 50 or 50%. No. Between 10 and 20%, it would be enough. Yes.